So we're here to talk about the brand new Space Marine Codex.
This codex is special.
Space Marines are known for their specialities.
Yeah.
Iron Hands are known for something, White Scars are known for something, Ultramarines are known for something.
Yeah.
When you saw these particular Space Marine chapter colors on the table, you would automatically assume that they can only play that particular way.
Yeah.
Now, somebody that maybe has a vast collection of Iron Hands, but has always wanted to play the speedy part of it, or maybe the stealthy part of it, can do so because the detachments don't walk you to a chapter.
It gives us a lot of agency on what we want to do and how we want to do it. But what I do love is that it doesn't sacrifice flavor.
When we talk about Space Marines and specialities, remember, we're talking about massive chapters of Space Marines, 1,000 Space Marines. Within those chapters, there are companies within chapters.
Yeah.
So I recently played a game against Mubin where I decided to go 6 company for the Ultramarines, which is their armored division. It was a lot of fun to kind of play into detachment that had rules that that made tanks sing and made dreadnoughts sing and made the tech marines sing. And it was powerful, not gonna lie, it was very powerful, but at the same time thematic.
I'm really excited to hear your thoughts on that in the game. Let's go through each of them because they all actually have a lot of changes. But the biggest change, oh no, don't even touch this.
What?
Don't even touch it, just the
But
biggest
you said
change.
to go through them all.
But the biggest change. Hold a moment. Old's moment has changed drastically.
So your initial,
Yeah.
you came into my office and you're like, oh, the moment changed.
I had some big feelings on the topic, yes. Here's what happened. Old's moment has changed drastically. Instead of having it pick a unit and have you reroll wounds and hits, now it's just hits. So you get to reroll all your hit rolls, which is good, it's still very good, but the wound rolls, you don't get to reroll. People have been debating it a lot since GW leaked that, and I've been debating it a lot in here and in here. What do you think?
I think.
Oh my goodness, you're so wrong.
I think what happened was Old's moment is incredibly powerful, and it's the ability for anything to wound anything, which is not, I think, the tenet in which they tried to build the new edition. The new edition feels like there are guns and weapons specifically to take out a specific target, right? You have things that take out elites, you have things that take out heavy armor, you have things that take out infantry. And also Moment kind of bypassed all that by giving you the reroll wounds.
Yeah, totally.
The detachments are also fairly flavorful and powerful in their own right. And I think they would have had a hard time balancing points and balancing units if you had these really good detachment rules coupled with this very powerful ability. My opinion is that I think they had to tone down Osa Moment in order to apply flavor to the other detachments.
I like that. That's a really good assessment of it. I had a very reaction to it. Like it didn't feel great. And I think it's because, I go to tournaments relatively often. We're all really busy here at Play on Tabletop, but I do try and take in tournaments as much as I can. To play in a tournament right now when, Eldar is so good and, Space Marines struggle into a lot of different matchups, I thought to myself, wow, I'm just losing a really effective tool for, destroying my opponent's units, but it didn't really feel like I was gaining a lot at first anyways, up on that first read.
You do go to tournaments, and when you're playing the top table of tournaments, it's
a different thing.
It's pretty hardcore.
It's pretty
right?
hardcore.
There are 2 players there that really want to win.
Yeah.
What I don't want to see this edition do or go back to, because we've seen this in previous editions, is power creep.
Yeah.
Everyone's just trying to be overpowered over another one, and then you kind of prioritize killing, you prioritize these oppressive lists that if you're at a tournament and you're playing mid-table, you might have someone that's built this incredibly oppressive list that is punching down into somebody.
Yeah,
right?
That doesn't feel
That
great.
doesn't feel great. So I think what's happened is this edition is trying to tone down the killing power.
Yeah.
And Oath of Moment was a rule specifically on just killing.
Yeah.
Right? So they're trying to tone it down. They're trying to give you rules like, for instance, with the Vanguard Spearhead, its detachment rules are about stealth, about gaining cover. And so you're able to go score objectives, you're able to play a particular way that you might be doing really well on the scoreboard, but it's probably not going to feel oppressive for your opponent, hopefully, right? I don't want to show up to a table and have it end turn 2. If you took Osa Moment and you gave it to the Ironstorm Spearhead, which prioritizes tanks and heavy weapons,
then you got
all
problems.
of a sudden, you may be just overpowering your opponent and you might not have a great 5-turn game.
Yeah.
I would love this edition to encourage tactical play, point scoring play, building balanced lists, having 2 balanced lists come together, and 2 opponents that are going to have a 5-turn game.
We're going to start talking about the detachments here in just a second, but I do think that even though there is that change, having had some more time to really think about it versus just react to it, I am actually really happy with the change. In terms of like making my lists, playing the games I have played with it, what it has made me do is actually made me pivot harder to find things that work independently of Odes a Moment. It has let me find where the strengths in the Codex lie outside of that very obvious like Control-Alt-Delete button. The longer I have the book, the more I like it. So let's talk about how they want you to play Space Marines.
So we've both played a lot of Gladius.
We both played a lot of Gladius, yeah. We played a lot of Gladius.
So I personally like Gladius because the Ultramarines to me have always been this Swiss Army knife. Not the best tools in the universe, but a tool for everything.
Yeah.
And so having the doctrines
is a big
gives
deal.
you that ability to like react to the state of the game and go, okay, well this one I need the Devastator Doctrine.
Yeah.
Now I need the Tactical and the Assault.
Yeah.
And previously with doctrines, they kind of went in an order.
Yeah.
And now you get to choose. I've strayed away from Gladius just because I want to test out everything else.
Sure, yeah.
But it's still one of my favorite detachments. Have you played Anvil Siege Force?
Once.
Yeah? How was it?
It was against myself.
What?
I've only played one game in studio and it was with the Salamander. I can't show this to anybody.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
So here's what it does, okay? So basically what happens is, and this is the Imperial Fist one, so Anvil Siege Force, all Imperial Fists, Shield of the Emperor. All of your ranged weapons have the heavy ability, which is great. So you stand still, you get +1 to hit, it's phenomenal. And then if such a weapon already had the ability and you stand still, you get +1 to wound. Phenomenal, right? And it reads really well. And I love the flavor of this detachment, especially with some of the stratagems that feel very Imperial Fisty. Like this feels like you're playing an Imperial Fist list. The problem is you're playing an Imperial Fist list. That's the problem. And so it promotes a static way of playing the game.
AdMech, with its army rules and detachment rules, I thought the same thing. For a battle round, it gives you heavy. And here I thought, okay, to begin the game, let's go into heavy, let's get the +1 to hit, and let's lay down the fire onto the opponent. And I was losing my games because of it. But then I started to play the other way where I started getting out to where I needed to go and then playing the rest of the game in heavy. So I think that's probably what they want you to do with this is like that stalwart, get out onto your objectives, then you plant yourself.
And then you do it.
And then you punish.
Where the downside though is that when you compare this to like, for example, the Gladius Strike Force, right? Where for one turn you're like, okay, I could do Devastator Doctrine, but it makes more sense to do the Assault Doctrine.
Right.
Get out and move faster. The problem is there is no such other option. You're either standing still and getting a bonus or you're not getting a bonus. There's kind of like the difference. With that being said, one heck of a bonus. What makes this awesome is Intercessors. And the reason it's awesome is because heavy intercessors and intercessors, their guns are both assault and heavy built in. You stand there and you shoot at high volume, right? You get +1 to hit, making them all hit on 2s. Suddenly they're amazing. And then they all get +1 to wound. You think to yourself like, oh, like plasma cannons, okay, missile launcher, sure, I get +1 to wound, cool. No. Like volume, bolt her something to death.
From a game perspective, your troops, that's where your objective control comes from. That's where you can take a 90-point unit, a 100-point unit, and cleanse an objective, storm hostile. So it's not bad when you have to think about taking troops.
If you play tons of troops, and like I did it, I was like, whoa, like a dumb amount of damage. But I will highlight one stratagem that's my favorite. Can I highlight a stratagem that's my
go for
favorite?
it.
Not one backward step. This is rad. Your command phase. One Adeptus Astartes infantry unit from your army within range of an objective marker. Until the end of your turn, double the objective control characteristic of models in that unit, but it must remain stationary. Holy smokes!
Because
So-
intercessors at 4?
Then they would, each one guy is 4. If you have a squad of like 5 or 10 of them, suddenly you're like, I have OC 40. What's up?
Take that, Norn Emissary.
Yeah, take that, Norm Emissary. Like, you're not doing anything.
Ironstorm Spearhead.
I wonder which one this is. The names of all the detachments are like so on the nose and ridiculous.
In the Ironstorm Spearhead, the detachment roll allows you to reroll 1 hit roll, or wound roll, or damage roll
Super awesome.
per unit per phase. So you couple that with O's a Moment, and all of a sudden you've got a little bit more.
Yeah, because you're like, I reroll all hits. Now I can reroll one of the wounds or the damage. You know you're going to be able to do it.
Yeah. This one was an accidental oopsie is really powerful.
Oh, right, yeah. Accidental oopsie is awesome.
Not one stratagem in this detachment I would not use.
They're all incredible.
They're all really good. I had a hard time choosing the enhancement, but there's one clear winner.
Okay,
The target augury web.
okay,
You
Lay
put
it
it
down.
You put it on a Tech Marine,
okay.
and all vehicles within 6 inches of Tech Marine get lethal hits.
Whoa, boy!
So couple that with Oath of Moment,
So good.
couple that with the Armored Wrath, and now this one could be oppressive. This one might be the killiest detachment that the Space Marines.
Probably. If you can highlight one, so you've had a chance to play with this one. If you could highlight one stratagem for the people too, like what's one that really stands out?
Merciless Weakness.
Okay, lay it on us.
Merciless Weakness is a stratagem in which you get sustained hits 1 if you're hitting something that's below its starting strength.
That's really good.
Okay? Then you crit on 5s. You're critical on 5s. We do have a 40k and 40m where I played the Ironstorm Spearhead against Tyranids.
Yeah.
And in my headcanon, it's Gilliman leading a detachment of 6 company, which is the armored specialists of the Ultramarines, right? So it allowed me to bring the tanks, it allowed me to bring the dreadnoughts, and utilize like any enhancement would have worked.
Yeah, 100% it would.
Any stratagem would work.
Yep.
It was nice to have that plethora of options and know it could all work. This is definitely the killy detachment.
It's very angry. Oh yeah.
This
is the stuff.
one's actually just as angry.
Hit me with it. I love this detachment. Okay, so this is called the Firestorm Assault Force. And this is very clearly the Salamanders detachment. And I got to play this one on a 40K and 40M coming up soon. Their rule is close range eradication. Oh, I love it. So this gives all of your guns the assault keyword. So good, Tack. It's so good. And then if any such attack is made with a weapon that's within 12 inches, so basically if you're inside a 12-inch range, you get +1 to your strength characteristic. Incentivizes you to lean into those like 12-inch flamers.
Right.
Even though this is all weapon-based abilities in this detachment rule, like all your stuff gets assault, so you can advance and you can shoot, which is great. I think what actually makes the strength of this detachment and what makes it sing is now like your ability to get to where you need to be and then do something. The amount of action efficiency you get from being able to, get out of a transport, move, advance, and then do an action, or move, advance, and shoot, means that you're getting that much more out of your Marine units where you couldn't before.
This is probably the best detachment in the book.
Probably, yeah.
For pulling random tactical cards.
Yeah.
And looking at it and going,
I can do that.
I've got a way to do that. We all had a good laugh about this one because of just how crazy it is, but rapid embarkation.
This is hilarious. So basically what takes place is, let's say you've got your transport vehicle, right? And then you've got a unit sitting beside it. So then what takes place is at the end of your opponent's fight phase, you spend the CP, and then the unit that's sitting beside it hops back in, and that's it. But while that seems so like all they do is get back into the transport, yes, but what it means is they're now inside the transport. So when your turn starts, right, which is immediately, what takes place is now you can go like, oh, I need them to go and do something. I'm gonna get them out on the other, oh no. So what that means is when your turn starts, what you can do is you can get them out on the other side of the transport, having given them now like 7 inches of movement. You know, you hop on the other side and then you run and then you go and you can still like advance and you can still shoot. And suddenly you go from way over here to way over here and all it cost you was 1 CP.
Speaking of transports and getting into them and then getting out of them.
Oh, this is even more hilarious.
This is burning vengeance. This is a very angry. You shot my my ride, and burning vengeance.
This is get your hands off of my Mercedes. That's what this says. For 1 CP, get your hands off my Mercedes. So, your opponent's shooting in your opponent's shooting phase, just after an enemy unit has resolved its attacks, you choose a transport unit that was selected to target at 1 or more attacks. 1 unit embarked within the transport can disembark as if it were your movement phase, and can then shoot as if it were your shooting phase, but must target only the enemy unit that targeted your transport.
Yeah.
Hand off my Mercedes. It's hilarious.
Take transports with the Firestorm.
Yeah, and transports are really good, especially in Space Marines anyway, so you may as well be taking at least a couple. But they're very good. So this is a fun detachment.
Look at all the...
I know, look at them all. I totally recommend playing around with this. It's phenomenal.
It's just fun.
It's so much fun, and it's really good. So you have some experience playing this one, the Stormlance Task Force. This is what they envision White Scars to be. Run us through it.
This is the 40K and 40M that is currently out because it's the first one that we're doing with the Space Marine Codex.
I love it.
I played into the Death Guard.
Yes.
So this is a detachment that allows you to advance and charge or fall back and charge.
Very good.
Really, really good for movement. Playing into Death Guard was a bit tough because their auras are their shtick.
Yeah.
And so with this one, you're kind of charging headfirst into auras.
That's not great.
But again, we talk about movement. We talk about the ability to score points or have board presence and board control. With advance and charge or fall back and charge, you will find ways to get yourself into trouble or lay down the trouble.
Yeah.
You're gonna find a way to get out of trouble. Always like, you know, you're engaged over here. You don't want to be here anymore. You fall back. You can charge away into another unit, and all of a sudden you're on the other side of the map.
Yeah.
Because this is a movement-based one, this is a bit more of a learning curve.
Yeah.
Because you can get yourself into trouble with this one.
You can. If you accidentally move too far, get stuck out in the open, if you maybe make the decision to just get very aggressive and advance and charge something that you probably shouldn't, like suddenly you can get stuck in places.
Right. I am going to be a bit critical though.
Yeah.
The enhancements. So Space Marines are known to have a lot of characters and a lot of ability to mix and match, try to figure out which enhancement to put onto one character, what character to attach to what unit. This one wants you to be a mounted unit. Okay?
Right. There's only, what, 1 character?
There's now only 1 character. They've removed the captain on bike.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Right.
So chaplain on bike is...
Wait, are you sure?
Yeah.
Positive?
Not in here. I can't find it.
So yeah, so there's only 1 mounted character now.
So it becomes really hard to use enhancements because they need to be on a mounted character, and the mounted chaplain can only attach to Outrider Squad. It's a mono build. Yeah. So this one is very specific, which I didn't like quite as much because the other detachments, there was a lot more freedom.
Yeah.
And then same thing with the stratagems. The stratagems typically targeted mounted units or vehicles, but this one was very specific. I still had a lot of fun playing the game because I've always wanted to run like a fast moving squad, but tough. This one was tough.
Yeah.
Maybe I messed up in my reading of the rules, but with Shock Assault, it sounds really good. But what it does is you can reroll the charge.
It's very good.
And it gives them Lance.
It's very good.
So what does Lance do?
+1 to wound.
What does the chaplain on a bike do for his unit?
+1 to wound.
You only trigger the Shock Assault for the reroll charge, which is available through a command reroll.
I guess what you could do here, though, is you could have 1 unit of Outriders with a chaplain, and then 1 unit of Outriders without a chaplain. Yes. You charge in with the chaplain, you get your +1 to wound with his Litany of Hate, and you can charge in with the other one, Shock Assault them, and they're both getting it.
But what I would like out of any codex or any kind of detachment is the ability to use a lot of these stratagems in a lot of different scenarios, right?
Yeah.
They're a little too specific for my taste.
It's very specific.
In all of my games that I've played, the Stormlance Task Force is the one where I'm like, I need to be in a very specific mood to play this one.
Yes, a very specific mood.
The next one is
Vanguard Spearhead. So I've played this one. Have you played this one yet?
I have not played this one.
Okay, so I had a chance to play this one again with myself. This one, actually, I thought at first, this one was not great. Much like a lot of the experiences I'm having with 10th edition is just to give it time. The Vanguard Spearhead is the Raven Guard detachment, and they have Shadow Masters as their detachment rule. And so what this does is basically outside of 12 inches, your unit has the stealth ability. You have -1 to hit, and you also get the benefit of cover against that attack. So it's pretty good. At first, when I first read this, I was like, oh, like, well, that's pretty, like 12 inches is actually like a substantial distance, especially on this smaller board. And so it's like, you know, the opponents get pretty close all the time. So I wasn't too keen. And then I also thought to myself, like, you know, a lot of people have cover all the time anyways. However, in playing it, it was actually way more relevant than I thought it was going to be. And what it also let me do is it also let me step out of my hiding places and still be hidden. There was a lot of like, this objective's in the open, and only one of us is going to be good at standing on it, and it's going to be me. And so that actually, I leaned into it pretty hard, and I liked it a lot more. The second thing that caught me off guard is that much like the mounted rule on the Stormlance task forces, this gets really specific with the Phobos keyword.
Right. There is a lot more Phobos in the book comparative to mounted.
Phobos specific enhancements.
I like Phobos a lot.
I know you like. I like Phobos a lot too.
So infiltrators, if you haven't watched a lot of my games, they're my favorite troop ever, because I find them to be they're a denial unit first and foremost, and they're a area control unit because they have Omni Scramblers, which denies you the ability to come in closer than 12 inches from deep strike or reserves. Now you have an ability here where you get your -1 to hit, plus you get cover if it's outside of 12. So a deep striking unit has to land outside of 12 of that unit. And so even though they're trying to gain board control, they're coming in a tactical place against that infiltrator unit, they can't charge it, and they're gonna have a hard time wounding it.
The next thing for enhancements, the Blade Driven Deep, one of my favorite. You give it to an infantry model, and while this model is leading a unit, the whole unit gains the infiltrator's ability. There are things like, you know, oh, I give it to a Space Marine Terminator captain. And the whole Terminator captain joins a 10-man brick of Terminators, and he'll sit in the middle.
Start the game scoring, basically.
Start the game scoring, and with something strong.
One of my favorite things to do in the previous edition was the rapid redeployment with the Ultramarines, right? Now, you can take a bunch of Phobos units within the Vanguard Spearhead and just push them all forward. Gain immediate board control.
Yeah.
If you go first, great. You might be scoring objectives already. You might be able to do a lot of things. However, if you're second and you think you're going to be in trouble, if you have that captain, then you can pull 3 of them back. Not only can you pull 3 back, you can put them back into reserves.
It's awesome.
And you can exceed the reserve limit of a game.
It's awesome. There's a lot of play here for some tactical and kind of cat and mouse gaming, which is really frustrating when you're talking about models that have power armor.
In the week leading up to the pre-order for Space Marines, we have this idea of showing all the detachments, every single one. Yeah. We've played a couple of 40K and 40Ms. Yours, unfortunately, due to the editing schedule, is going to be outside of the window.
That's okay, though.
So we have an Ironstorm 40K and 40M.
Yep.
We have a Stormlance 40K and 40M.
Yep.
But everything else is going to be done through live streams. You are going to be playing Salamanders.
Yep.
And I will have to take the rest. Yeah. So luckily, that means I get to play Vanguard Spearhead and see what that feels like. And then, last but not least, we have...
This one's my favorite.
Is it really?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, because you get the moment back for 1 turn?
No.
No? Okay.
No. You'd think that would be why, but it's not.
So this is the first company task force.
This is awesome. The first company task force, in every single Space Marine chapter, we talked about being divided into those companies. The first company is always just packed to the brim with vets. It's all vets all the time. There's nobody else that's even allowed to be in the company. This, I think, is actually the most flavorful detachment. And it adheres to the lore the most. What you are playing against is the battle-hardened veterans of the Imperium, and I love that. So detachment rule, extremis threat level. Once per battle in your command phase, you can use this ability. If you do, until the start of your next command phase, each time a model from your army with the Oaths of Moment ability makes an attack against the Oaths of Moment target, you can re-roll the wound roll as well. So they give it back to you. They give it back to you right here. A key feature of all the stratagems, with the exception of Armor of Contempt, so the other 5, they only work on veteran units. That's it.
Which is flavorful.
It's so flavorful. I love it.
I wish you were a little bit more available for the live streams, because
I know, this would be
I
one I
would
could
give
do.
I would give this one to you. I'd take the other one.
One day soon.
I'm looking forward to playing every single detachment, trying every single detachment out.
Yeah,
Right?
me too.
I'm not bored of one. I'm not looking at one going like I would never play that one.
Yeah.
All of them have a very specific flavor, and
Yeah.
I said this before about mood. If I'm in a mood to do Raven Guard, I'll do it, right? And I can do it with blue power armor.
Yeah, and there's nothing in the rules that stops you from doing that, which is great.
Actually, you know what I really want to see? Is I want to see all the colors.
Just all in one.
Yeah, because
one big rainbow.
so there is a caveat. If you take a epic hero that has a chapter keyword, then you can only play units in that chapter.
Yeah.
So you can't play the Lion
and Gilliman
at
the same time. You can't do that.
You can't do that. Well, we're going to break those rules for kind of our big narrative battles.
Oh, but narrative means
that's something separate.
Narrative throws it all out the window, anyways.
But now I can freely and come to a table, show up at a tournament,
Yeah.
and go, here are my Outriders out of the White Scars. Here are my veterans out of the blue power armor.
Yeah.
Simply because I don't have all of them painted in white.
Doesn't matter.
And that's going to be okay. And you know what? In the lore, there is a ton of instances where there are several chapters fighting together against a common enemy. So lots of Space Marines. Do not get tired of Space Marines. There's a lot of flavor of Space Marines, so pick your flavor. There's a lot of Space Marine happening. I hope you enjoy all the Space Marine content that we have available for you. Here we go. And until we see you next time in the whole sign-off thing, can we do that?
Until we see you next time in the far-flung future of this grimdark universe.
Play on.
Play on.